Anyways, so we're going to do this EdCamp style, and what that means is we're just going to, I'm going to have a few questions up here on the board, and we're going to discuss the 3 questions and kind of just talk about a few things and amongst our team, or maybe have other teams share out. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So do you know how to go? Or you can just
Yep, you got it right here.
Okay. Oh, anyway. Oh, and by the way, those were examples of how some teachers have their 3 questions posted. I should have mentioned that before. Anywho, oh, there it is. Super duper. Great. Anywho, so these are our bullet points of discussion. So let's go ahead and start with this first question, and I want everyone to just, as I read this first question, take a moment, think about it, and then we'll go ahead and discuss, okay? And just kind of discuss amongst your groups, or if you want to raise your hand, and if you want to, share your thoughts on it, let's go for it, okay? Anyway, so what is the intent or goal in using the 3 questions? So take a moment, think about it. What is the intent or goal in using the 3 questions? All right, go ahead, share out, or raise your hand, or whatever. Talk with your friends. Okay, just for time's sake, let's stop for a moment. Let's have somebody share out. Anybody want to share out what's the intent or goal of using the 3 questions? Anybody? Oh, hello, Miss Weiss. All right.
I don't know. I think one of the things is they know what they need to do to be successful. Like when they walk out the room, they're like, I could do that, and I was able to.
Exactly. They're accountable for their learning. That's right. I love that. Thank you. Miss Miranda, are you sure you don't want to share? No?
First grade talked about student ownership.
Student ownership.
And teacher ownership.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And
That's true.
The lower
Good job,
you
first
go, the more important it is. Kind of like an inverse proportion. The lower you are, the more important it is for the teacher. And the higher the grade is, the more important it is for the student to take that ownership just because of their age and
That's
maturity.
true. Very, very much. All right.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, or lack thereof. Exactly.
In 5th grade.
Yep. Okie dokie. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the second question. Sorry. Did anyone else want to share out? I don't want to be rude. No? Okay. Let's move on to the second question. So how do the 3 questions benefit your classroom? So think about your classroom and how does it benefit your classroom? How does it benefit? What do you think? Turn and talk. There we go. That's turn and talk.
In La Compass, you can move around and it goes and it points to the board.
Oh, okay.
That's the idea. But as a teacher, my mind doesn't work in a very straight linear way. I go the scenic route.
Right.
So it always leads me back to, oh wait, we're supposed to be here. And this is where I'm supposed to be going. As a teacher, I do that, and sometimes the students will take me along
Yes.
on the ride.
Sure.
Okay, wait, let's go back here.
Thank you so much. All right. Okie dokie. Should we do
One thing to consider is having a graphic organizer that shows. We talked in, Ms. Chambers made a great point, is a lot of times the kids don't know when they've learned it. And they're kids. They don't, especially when they're younger or lower. And so sometimes we have to tell them the signs to look for. It's like any other lesson. These are the signs to look for when you've learned it. If you can do this and this and this plus that, then you've learned it.
Exactly, Mr. T. Well said. Thank you. Okie dokie. So now I guess we're done discussing. Great job, you guys. You guys had some great, made some great points and things. And so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate for you all how to connect the TEKS and the by statement with the 3 questions. I'm going to just do what I normally do in the classroom, so just bear with me. Y'all are the students, and I'm just going to go for it. So, okay, class, today we're learning about the TEK figure 19F. What is the verb today? It's in yellow. What is it, class? Made. Made. How many of you made something? Oh, Bobby Joe, you've made a. Oh, what have you made? You've made a paper airplane in class. That's unacceptable, but you've made something, correct, Bobby Joe? You have. Great. So We all have schema, meaning background knowledge on how to make something, correct? Yes? Great. I love how all of your hands are raised. Fantastic. So the verb make means you're going to form and put things together. So we've all made something, but we're not making paper airplanes today. We're making connections. Okay? And what I mean by connections is I'm talking about we're connecting the text that we read. So, this story, I can connect it with this story. So, we're making connections between and across multiple texts. Multiple means more than one. Oh my goodness, y'all are so smart. Fantastic. So, so we're making connections between and across multiple texts of various genres. Okay, so let's take a look at this wonderful picture here. I've got this story called Matilda. How many of you know about Matilda? Oh, great, so many of you. Who can tell me, how did the principal treat her students? Okay. Oh, come on, Mr. T.
She was a mean, oppressive bully.
She was basically an adult bully. She took one of her students and threw him out the window. And what did Matilda do? She used her magical powers, and she was able to make her friend land in a bed of flowers, and she was okay. Because whenever Matilda would get mad, she would use her magical powers, right? Anyway, so then we also have this wonderful book called Wonder. How many of you have read Wonder? All of you, great. Oh, that's so wonderful. Okay, so Wonder, how did some of the students treat him? Oh, really? Oh, Susan, you can tell me. How did one of the students, or what was one of the bad ways in which, I'm messing this up, sorry, I'm so tired. How did they treat August, that's his name, in Wonder? Julian. How did he treat him? He bullied him. Thank you so much, Susan. You're fantastic. Okay, so as you can see here, this young man here, this picture here, he's reading Matilda. And a thought popped into his head. He said, oh my gosh, this book has the same themes that Wonder has, which is what? Bullying, friendship, and family. Guess what? He just made a connection across multiple texts. In this case, it was these two stories. So that's what we're going to focus on today, guys. And now, some of these stories, for instance, they might have different genres. Matilda is clearly what? Fiction. It's fiction or fantasy. It's fictional, right? It's impossible for somebody to stop somebody or use magical powers to make things turn on or whatever. And then here, Wonder. Wonder, could it happen? Yes. Oh, everyone says yes. Great job. Yes, it could. But it's fictional, so we call that what? Realistic fiction. It could happen, but it didn't. It's not true. It's fictional. So we've got fiction and realistic fiction. So, anyhow, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about our by statement. So how are we going to do this? What's our activity? We're going to do this by, what's our verb again? It's always in yellow. Making connections between two texts. In this case, one of the texts we're going to be reading is called the Cholla cactus. That's how it's pronounced, Cholla cactus. It's an expository. I mean, it's going to be explaining things about this particular cactus, and the cactus wren by Byrd Baylor. And this is a poem, okay? We're going to read these texts, annotate them, talk about it, and then at the very end, once we read both of them, we're going to make connections between the two, okay? So that's what we're focusing on today. And we're going to provide textual evidence, okay? That's super important. Okie dokie. All right, so now let's talk about our three questions. Okie dokie. So, what am I learning today? Ooh, see, this is hard because I need to see the teeth. Well, whatever. I'll wing it. I'll try my best. So for the what am I learning today part, here's the thing. The 5th grade teaks, some of them can be super long and it's hard to shorten them up. So I just kind of write general things about it. So what am I learning today? What's our verb? So I'm making connections. And what I would write, because I would have this on the whiteboard, I would have the questions there, and I would say, what am I learning today? I'm making connections between and across texts. So you could just put making connections between and across, or just put between multiple texts. Shorten it, because I always shorten it, because I don't have time to write all that jibber jabber there. But it's too, you got to do it quick. So making connections between multiple texts. That's what I'm learning today. Now, why am I learning it? Now this is always the hard part, because oftentimes I kind of have to like think of it off the top of my head. So I'll say, why am I learning it? Well, I'm learning it to practice gaining a better understanding of what I am reading. So, because I mean, if you can tell me, if you can read a story and connect it with another story, then that tells me that you've gained a deeper understanding of what you are reading. So I would put, I'm learning it to practice gaining a better understanding of what I'm reading. Okay, how will I know I've learned it? I'll go back to that verb. I'm going to be making, and I use this part here, and I focus on the by statement. So how will I know I've learned it? I will have made connections between two, because I'll say, how many stories are we reading today? 2. Between 2 texts. And that's it. And that's the end. Anyways, so that's how I connect the teak, the by statement, and the 3 questions all together. And oftentimes I'll kind of like have them call out what's on the board, because I don't expect them to memorize, especially with these 5th grade reading teaks. It's too hard to like memorize it. So I write it down and I'll say, hey, what am I learning today? Everyone will say it out loud. Making connections between multiple texts. And I'll say, why am I learning it? And everyone will repeat it. How I know I've learned it, and then they'll repeat it. And then we get down to business and get the lesson started, and we're moving along real quick. And that's how I implement the 3 questions and the teach and by statement. If you have any so now, here's the deal. If you're having trouble with the 3 questions, don't worry, it's not super hard. As long as you have the teak, you can make it happen. So, you guys have, let's see here, 4:45, about 15 minutes or so to work and look at your lesson for the week. And you're going to basically look at the teaks that you're teaching this week, and you need to come up with your own 3 questions for each teak. It's not hard. It's really not hard. So just go ahead and write it down somewhere or whatever you want, but this is your time to get those 3 questions ready. If you need help, Mr. T and I will be walking around and we can help you out.
I do have a question. Do you ever project it exactly like you've done it with pictures and
Always.
what you call that? Always.
Always.
So that's something that I've done with Mr. Yacho. You still need to have it posted or written on that little whiteboard on the.
I print off the slides, I have it as the teaks, and then I write down the 3 questions, and I project it.
Sometimes we would print them out, have them
Yes.
do it in their journal,
Yes.
mark, when,
That's a good idea.
When I highlight it, you highlight it. When
Ooh, I
I
like
write
that.
it up there, you write it up there.
That's even
so
better.
You can totally use your projector to be prepared and to have it be ready.